Old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Be here, Willie. Oh, Dixieland, I was born early on a frosty morn. Look away, Dixieland. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. It's true in marching on.
Hello, can you hear me? You should.
We can hear you.
Okay. And you should see me in a second, I think.
Jill's coming on, right?
There we go. Yes. Yes. Jill will be right there.
I didn't send her a link. Did you?
I just sent it to her.
Wow, man. What a setup. And you got really high definition. That's
cool.
I didn't have to ask you if you've got a good internet setup. You got it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. We're lucky here. We have 5 gigabits up and down, and that helps with the clarity. Of course, I have a professional webcam. So that helps a little bit too.
That helps tremendously.
Yeah, makes a big difference. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, I just wanted to say something to you. I messaged you about it. You know, I really apologize. I'm getting energy when I'm saying this, and I'm supposed to say this. You know, one of the biggest Sasquatch lessons I learned is about no judgment. Sometimes I jump into these issues because I'm on one side and people are on the other, and it's a heated issue, and it's world affecting. I apologize, man, because we both want the best.
Yes.
You know. Yeah. And every time I do something like that where I'll make a comment or something, I get that you're judging thing. I know it's wrong, and I don't want to be like that. And I like you anyway. You know.
Appreciate that, Brian. No apology necessary. We're all just trying to live the best life we can.
Yeah, we all want it. Yeah, we just want the best.
And two sides are necessary for every object, every subject.
Ah, here she is.
Exactly, Thom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Thom, once again, it was so tremendous to be up there with you.
The people
had such a great time.
These people are still talking about you guys.
Great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it just blew people away, and I was so happy to see you guys. It was just tremendous. Brian, you missed the show of the century when they were here on the 15th.
Well, it's quite a long drive for me now.
Yeah, I know.
Where are you at now, Brian?
I'm just above northern Idaho in a little place in BC called Creston.
Oh, are you serious? Really? Yeah, we've been to Creston a couple of times. Yeah. Oh,
well, hey, you know, we got a guest house here, man. And
they got
lots of people come to visit us. Come and visit us for sure.
Cool. Yeah. No, we've cut through there probably 3 or 4 times. We were recently in Castlegar, May of last year, doing and Castlegar is a lot further west, I realize, but
no, it's only an hour. It's an hour.
Is it an hour? Okay, that's not as far as I thought.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know the area pretty good. It's a beautiful area.
Oh yeah, we love it up there. It's gorgeous.
Mm.
It's ideal Sasquatch
Great
country.
area for Sasquatch too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
um, you know, I had a real strong connection. Well, I still do. I'm feeling them actually right now, but you know, with my clan and in Maple Ridge there. But getting introduced to these guys, sure, I had an excellent vocal I recorded the other night when they were communicating with me. You like that
Oh,
one, right,
cool.
Tom? Yeah, it was some kind of, I don't know what the Tom figures it was juveniles the first call, and then you could hear woo 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 woo, which you know is a typical Sasquatch call. But it was pretty cool, yeah. It's funny, you know, because I'm hearing impaired, but when I turn my hearing aids up, I got supersonic hearing, and I can hear like. So I go out there, what, 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes, and I don't set up. I don't do the game cam or the recorders or anything. But if I hear something, I'll go grab my camera, and that's what happened. So
I
how are
want
you
you,
guys?
I
Oh, sorry,
want you to
Tom.
know I've known this guy for a number of years, and his hearing isn't the only thing that's impaired.
So, Flash of Beauty. This is a big project for you guys. You got like, is it 2 documentaries out now? And
2 documentaries out now,
and
two
the,
in the
and the YouTube.
works, and
Wow.
the YouTube. And yeah, we're a little overwhelmed, Brian. We've bitten off a little bit more than we can chew, but
Mhm.
we're chewing, we're doing it. We're doing
One
it.
bite at a time.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it. That's
Okay.
it. That's it.
So run us through this because it seems that you know we all seem to be working. I don't know if you feel an energy with Sasquatch or you feel a connection with them, but to me, it looks like you guys are doing work for them. You get, especially with the subjects that, the sensitive subjects you're tackling or whatever about their abilities and energy or whatever, you're doing work that, a lot of people don't do that's important. So I figure that you're working for them is what I feel. But how did this journey start? Because you started off as filmmakers. How did the Sasquatch weed their way into your psyche, and how did that adventure start?
It's about who goes first.
Go
I'll
ahead.
go first.
No, no, both of you, yeah.
Yeah, and then Jill can fill in all the blanks. You
Well, they
know,
usually do, right?
yeah, yeah.
Well, some blanks you don't want filled in, but
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we've got to leave some secrets, right? Um, so to kind of answer your first question, yes, we do believe that there's definitely an invisible hand or an invisible foot or invisible feet, I guess you could say, guiding us along or leading us down a trail. And it's one synchronicity after another, Brian. It really is. The stories that come to us, the opportunities that come to us, the ease of which we're having telling some of these stories, which is rather unprecedented in the world of documentary filmmaking and filmmaking in general. So it's like a path is being cleared for us.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that going on. And we've been doing this now as Bigfoot filmmakers for close to 5 years. As filmmakers, we've been doing this for 25 years. And as
How did
Bigfoot
you start?
filmmakers,
How did you start with the filmmaking?
with filmmaking, we
Yeah, where did it come from to do that?
well, I got started as a kid because my father was in TV, and so
Mm-hmm.
he had a lot of the equipment. And so even at the mid 80s,
Mm-hmm.
as a kid, I was one of the only kids anywhere that had access to a video camera. Now every kid's got one in their pocket with their
Yeah.
phones, but I had a VHS recorder with a camera that connected to a VCR that I had to carry around, and the battery
Mm-hmm.
would last about 15 minutes. And then I learned how to edit, at about the age of 13, 14. And so I've been a filmmaker ever since. And then Jill and I met in screenwriting class at Portland State University here in
Mm-hmm.
Oregon. So,
wait a
and
minute,
that
wait a
was,
minute. Was it love at first sight?
oh yeah, for
I
sure.
knew.
How
I
could you
knew.
not?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
knew.
that's a great question for
But
Jill.
meanwhile, while Brett was already into his filmmaking, I was a theater student, and my focus was playwriting and then screenwriting.
Mhm.
And then I just found it was so much easier to be behind the camera than trying to go out on auditions and doing acting. And I really loved the producing element
Mhm.
and kind of making sense of the chaos and bringing it all together. But yeah, that's how Brett and I met basically, and that's kind of how we got started. So, it was in 99, wasn't it, Brett? I did my first film,
Hmm.
Breach of Etiquette, which was a
Yeah.
full-length feature film, and this was before people had really welcomed video, like shooting your movies on
Mhm.
video. Blair Witch Project had not come out yet, and that was a huge game changer in filmmaking
Mhm.
versus filming on 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter.
Mhm.
So I was a little bit ahead of the curve, but it all worked out the way it needed to. And so
Mhm.
since then, Brett and I have been a filmmaking team with me focusing on the producing and screenwriting, and Brett handling the directing, post-production, and camera and drone.
Yeah.
What
What were some of the films that you did prior to getting into the Sasquatch interests that you're proud of, and some of the different subjects that you tackled?
We did numerous short films prior to doing feature films. And then in 2010/2011, we did a film called Light of Mine, which is about a photographer who's losing his eyesight. And
Mm.
it's based on a real condition called Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. And basically, what happens, it's extremely rare, but what happens is you lose eyesight in one eye. And then about 3 weeks to a month later, you lose eyesight in the other eye. And so it's almost like it's this cruel condition that kind of prepares you for blindness. And so we did
Mhm.
a film. We shot it like a documentary, so it kind of has a feel like a documentary. But basically, the story was that he had always wanted to go and photograph Yellowstone National Park, and so his wife encourages him to do that, even though he doesn't want to go. So he reluctantly goes, and it ends up, changing his life. So we shot that on the road throughout Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, and that played some very prestigious film festivals and was on Netflix. And from there, we did another film called Mike Ferry and I, the cinematographer that's who's done a numerous amount of work on YouTube and both documentaries, Flash of Beauty and Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. So Mike Ferry and I did a Christmas film, which was interesting. That was kind of fun. We did that down in Southern Oregon, and Jill rewrote the screenplay on that one. And then we did another film called Pretty Broken, which Jill wrote the screenplay of. And that came out in 2018. So those are the features. And then Jill's got a feature that's in editing right now that she can talk more about, that she wrote and directed.
Did you guys enter them in any like I mean, I'm not sure if you guys are in the genre, well, not genre, that's not the right word, but like cans or whatever. But do you ever enter them in any of the little festivals or?
Oh, yeah, we had a short film play at Cannes Film Festival, actually.
Mhm. Cool.
The
Awesome.
short film corner. Yeah, that was really cool. Uh yeah, that's part of the fun of making films is going to the film festivals
Yeah.
and being able to sit in the audience
Mhm.
and kind of experience the movie through their eyes for the first time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the
That's
movie I have in post-production right now, which we haven't been able to finish it because we've been so busy working on all the other stuff going on. But it's called Last Chance, and it's a dark comedy. It's about a low-level motivational speaker. He's he's
Just that sentence makes me laugh.
Yeah.
well, he's gearing up for the big event, his big
Mhm.
event that's either gonna make him or break him. And
uh
it's uh it's kind of watching his whole world and his whole world, whether it's real or not, just fall apart and self-implode.
What's that
uh
one called?
Last chance.
that's yeah.
I want to see that one. Just the way
Yeah.
you describe that, it sounds like
Yeah.
ironically humorous and,
Yeah.
It's
And
whatever.
it's
poignant.
a funny movie. Yeah, and that'll be done. Hopefully, that'll be out this fall. So
Okay, cool.
we've got a lot going on.
Uh, you guys are, but what you're talking about going to the festivals, being the saving grace of all the work you do. It's the same thing with a writer. I find that
Yeah.
myself when I get the feedback from the readers.
Yeah.
It just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
It's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I I I don't know how to explain it from there. It's just an
I know
interior
exactly what you
feeling.
mean. I know exactly what you mean. I've had a few comments like that on my book too, that people were touched. When you touch people with, well, I'm going to say Ari's words
Mhm.
that I translated. It means everything, right? I mean, you guys feel the same way.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Sasquatch part of it. So when you first started getting into Sasquatch films and documentaries and having the interest in that, what was your understanding of it at that time, and how has it evolved to now? Because I've seen some of the people you've interviewed on Flash of Beauty, and these people have had profound experiences, and and when you accumulate so many of those experiences, which I've had myself too, and then you can, it just makes it more valid for everybody. So you must have changed your perspective over the 5-year period. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
It's been radical, Brian. It's really been radical. I mean, we entered this I don't want to say, I mean, it's not naivete because we had been going to Beachfoot events off and on since 2012. And that's part of the reason that we were able to kind of like sort of come out of nowhere is we had already established connections and friendships. And so, we entered this realm pretty apish, if you will, kind of thinking that we were dealing with some we were on the fence about the primate thing, but we certainly didn't expect to find out that there was a whole other skill set with Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know that there's some people out there that firmly believe one side or another, but we made that transition pretty quick because coming from a filmmaking background and a storytelling background, and for both Jill and I, a directing background, you really know when somebody's putting on a performance or not.
That's
You
right.
can really tell if somebody's telling you the truth,
Yeah.
or if they're lying to you. And, there's not a single person that we've interviewed that we've ever felt that is embellishing or exaggerating or, blatantly making something up. We believe
Mhm.
these people. Now, that's not to say that there isn't, situations where somebody might see something that could be misidentified, so on and so
Right.
forth. We fully acknowledge that, but we do know, and again, I'm a huge proponent of Barb Shoop's cloaker footage, that people are seeing stuff exactly like that out there
Mhm.
Yeah.
that is beyond our understanding, scientifically speaking, publicly. I like to say publicly scientific speaking,
I
because
mean,
we know that the private,
yeah.
government and
Yeah.
private industries know about it.
Once again, I can add credibility. Well, I don't have to add credibility to anything Barb Shoop does, but I've seen that. I've seen the I call it the predator mode.
Yeah.
I saw them. I was camping out on a beach one time, all by myself, doing a solo trip, and they were walking all around me.
Hmm.
It looked like a shimmering outline, and it had watery kind of thing in their middle or whatever, but you could see the outline of them, and they were walking around me. Yeah, um, so Barb Shoop's video doesn't surprise me. It's thrilling to get it on
Yeah.
video. It's groundbreaking, and it's something people need to look at, and think about. But yeah, it's a real thing. I can verify that, and as you said, many others have seen the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think also with Barb's interview being out on our YouTube channel, along with taking a deep dive, really looking at her footage, it's really empowered a lot of other people to come forward and share what they've seen. I
Hmm.
don't know
That
how many emails or private messages, or even just on the interview itself on the channel
mhm.
when people post comments, how many people have come forward and said, I saw some, excuse me, I saw something similar. I've seen this before. I thought I was crazy. That's exactly what I saw. It goes on and on. So
Mhm.
what we're just trying to do is take the stigma,
Right,
destigmify the conversation so people are more comfortable talking
right,
about this.
right.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what we're trying to do with the Pork and Beans, Pork and Pappy show. Of course, on a much smaller scale, but you reach one person, and that's a big victory, right? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
we're doing the same kind of thing. And I did have something I was going to say, but it escaped me now. So let's.
Even go back to that silly little TV show, Finding Bigfoot. That did so much to open up people so that they would talk about it. I mean, I spent years with people it was just like pulling teeth to get them to talk about their experiences.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden with that show, it became all right to talk about it. And that has helped tremendously,
Yeah.
hugely.
So
Uh,
as your guys, sorry, Tommy, you still.
I was going to say the one thing talking about in that vein is I find that the difference between those that understand the Sasquatch in their real uh, condition, in their real vein, uh, it's just a lack of experience for those who do not. Um, they just haven't been there to see what happens. Your portrayal in the second Flash of Beauty of the two gentlemen who watched the transition, uh, just it's so vitally true, and to have it chronicalized like that was absolutely out of this world, is for me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to ask you. So your perspective has changed from listening to interviewing all these people and hearing all these stories. But have you also had personal experiences that has, you know, helped you change your perspective as well?
I
Yeah.
And I just want to say, just to answer that really quick, it's not so much for me personally, it's not an experience that I had directly related to Sasquatch, the forest people. Uh, it's it's what I've taken away from the people we've sat with.
Yeah.
Being able to really, it's one thing when we interview someone, it's one thing when, you're at a conference hearing someone speak, but
Mhm.
when you're just privately one-on-one hearing how it changed them, and
Mhm.
it's not even the words, but you can sense, you see it in their eyes,
You can
how
see the
they're
authenticity,
looking.
yeah. Like you guys spoke about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's had the biggest impact on me because
Mhm.
it's like so many people have said, there's so many eyewitnesses. These people can't all be having some
Right.
mass hallucination or experiencing some mass delusion.
Mhm.
So that's what really has opened me up to all this.
Have,
Yeah.
have you
How
had
about
an
you,
oppor-
Brett? Go ahead,
have you
Sean.
had an
Oh,
opportunity to visit Barb's camps at all?
not yet, Tom. Not yet. I have a feeling that once we do, we'll be able to add to the list of things that we've experienced.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. You
Yeah.
know, we have what 4 or 5 of them a year, and I highly recommend that. They're fantastic.
We've got to do that this year. That's definitely on the list amongst the numerous things that we need to do this year, but that's definitely on the list. I think
Hmm.
2026 is going to be a little bit less stressful for us. But to go back to your question, Brian, we have had experiences. We haven't had any sightings per se, not yet. But that doesn't mean they haven't seen us. So I'll say that much.
I
But we
guarantee you they've
have
seen you.
had, they've definitely seen us. Um, but we have had, the wood knocks. We've heard the I don't want to use the vocalizations. We've seen Jill and I both had two separate portal sightings up near Sierra Camp
Oh yeah.
in August,
Wow.
which was we can talk about it in a second. We've seen iGlow. We've been bluff charged in pitch black. So we've definitely had, on top of the odd synchronicities, if you will, like I alluded to
Mhm.
earlier. And and then I've had those strange slash mind speak lucid dreams where it's like, wait a minute, these aren't my own thoughts. That
In,
happened to
in
me.
waking time?
Sleep.
In sleep time? Okay.
It was like I was awake but asleep at the same
Yeah.
time. I mean, I don't know how
Mhm.
to describe it, but it was like clearly
Mhm.
there was interference, or
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound bad because it wasn't,
No,
but
I want to
it
hear
was,
your version of that, but I just wanted to say there's a waking version of that, which is called thought placement,
mm, interesting.
where you get a
This
thought and then the answer, you will get a thought, the answer is right there immediately. It's very similar, but I want to hear what yours was like. It was in a dream, right?
Yeah, it was in kind of like a I was that kind of, it's almost like a twilight sleep where you're kind of half awake and you're it's I don't even know how to describe it. It's like you're kind of falling asleep, but you're not really asleep.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and this particular instance was and it was for like a week and a half. I was kind of getting these kind of like echoes, if you will. And then finally it just kind of materialized in my head. And it was a female Sasquatch saying, she said, I am Doha and I will show you things. That was the message that she imparted on me.
Mhm.
And we were working with
Oh.
some natives about a week later, and I asked them if that name had any sort of meaning to them, and they like jumped out of their pants, man, when I said that. And they said, "How do you know that? You shouldn't know that. That's private,
Mhm.
secret information of a female Sasquatch on our land." And yeah, it was pretty startling and stunning to them, and then back to me. So, and then I was kind of vocalizing. I was out into the woods on location, and we were doing some audio recordings, and I didn't hear anything audibly with my ears, but playing back the audio recordings, you could hear some faint responses. So there's, I mean, on top of finding physical evidence like structures and prints and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did the First Nations people say when you explained to them? That's what we call Native Americans, First Nations up here. What do they say
Right.
when you explained to them, that she had contacted you through MindSpeak? Did they change their attitude at all?
The first question was how much native blood I had,
Mhm.
You see,
which is
that should not be asked,
0.
really.
Yeah.
That shouldn't
Yeah.
be asked. I mean, that's but whatever.
They
Okay.
definitely had some questions. The
Yeah.
They definitely had some
conversation, the
questions.
mood shifted. Things got really serious after Brett just
Mhm.
innocently asked, matter of factly, what
Yeah.
does this mean?
So then what do they go from there? What do they ask you?
Well, and that was kind of it. It was just startling. Where did you get that name? How did you know that name? And I explained to them what I just explained to you guys. And then it was like, do you have native blood? How could you know this? So there was a little bit of an alarm, and then I asked the significance, and they wouldn't get into the details. So it's been left open ended, and
Mhm.
and and just to elaborate a little bit more, as we're working on Flash Beauty 3 right now, which is solely the First Nations or Indigenous Native voices. It's their
Wow.
stories, the background.
Mhm.
Right now, the film is tentatively called A Flash Beauty 3 Bigfoot Origins.
Mhm.
And, we're going to go back and really start trying to lay that groundwork as much as possible. And, and we understand that there's stories that need to remain sacred with tribes,
Sure.
and we respect that. So we're just talking to those who are willing to share and wanting to share and have permission to share,
Mhm.
so we can kind of start uncovering some of the history and past relationships with Sasquatch.
Are
Mhm.
you interviewing any Chehalis from British Columbia? There's a big Sasquatch tradition there.
We we don't have anything scheduled yet, but we would like to. We've been up to Alaska, Washington, Oregon. No, actually, we haven't shut. Yes, Oregon. Yes, Southern Oregon, and then Northern California, Oklahoma, and we'd like to represent the Midwest a little bit better. So
Mhm.
we'll probably be doing that as well. We tried representing the East Coast, but we had an interview canceled
We
upon
had multiple
landing.
interviews cancel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which we somewhat expected, but not when we landed. So that was that wasn't good.
Yeah. Do we have to mute you, Thom, or are you going to behave? He's got his people coming in.
He's got his fan club.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's going to be a good documentary. Number 3. I like that. I like that. The First Nations perspective. They're not quite. Some of them are very open. Some of them aren't quite as open. But I think
Yeah.
But I think that the goal is, like, I know a First Nations guy. He was one of the first guys I met. You know, connections, connections, connections. Like you guys talk about. You guys can feel that you're being connected to people, vice
Mhm.
versa. One of the first guys I met was a First Nations guy, and first day I went out, he showed me the glyph on the ground, and what a journey that was for me from there. And Thom, and if they want to talk to you and trust you, they got a wealth of information, but they can be very secretive too, and you can understand why, right?
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely.
You
Thom,
can
by the way,
understand
you're
why.
muted.
But I do want to say that ideally, what we want to do is we want to get over all that stuff. We just got to realize that we just have to reset and just come together, right?
Yeah,
We,
yeah,
we, we, reliving history and whatever all the time. It's just like reopening wounds. It's just going to judgment and all this stuff. We have to just say enough is enough. Quit blaming people for what they did in the past, and let's just move on and clean the slate. I know it sounds easy, but it actually it's an attitude and it's an energy and it's a heart-based thing, right? So that's what we got to do. But
Mhm.
we're not
yeah,
there yet.
and it's just it's really it's all about respect. It's all about respect. That's the end
That's the
goal.
bottom line.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you respect the pace at which an individual or a community needs to heal. You know, and it's like there's a past trauma that is going to linger for a long time, and that's completely understandable. And it's not for anybody else to decide how they heal and how fast they heal other than themselves. And then again, we come back to respecting that.
So how is the rest of the community? Like the APER people or the people who are on the fence? And we don't need names because that's just judgment, bad energy, and all that stuff. We don't have to name anybody, but just generally, how do some of the people who are firmly in the ape camp react to your or do they react to your videos, and have they said anything? And have any of them said, maybe there's something to that?
I think we've actually had a lot of open-minded responses.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people that come back with feedback, they say maybe it hasn't been their experience, but who are they to discount what other people are
That's right.
experiencing? And we've had so many people that we feature in the documentaries who didn't believe in any of this stuff until it
Mhm.
happened to them. And then, okay, so they had a sighting. They're aware that there is something in the woods, but the paranormal stuff, no, that's too
Yeah.
far out there until it happened to them.
There
So,
again, experience.
and I think
Yeah.
that the phenomena kind of meets you where you are. Whether you're
Mhm.
ready or not, it's gonna reach out and show you things and kind of change the path for you.
I think
So
you're
Brian,
exactly right.
yeah, go ahead, Thom. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I just wanted to say I think you're exactly right in that assessment. Uh, as people are ready, they will see more. Never,
Yeah.
Yeah.
never close your mind and say that was impossible, because
Mhm.
it'll reach right up and bite you in the career very quickly to do
And I
so.
wanted to hear Brett's take on that. But you guys also bring, because of who you are and your filmmaking history, and you've been in doing this for a long time, you bring some credibility that some people
To
don't
the
bring.
table,
So
that's right. And the respect angle.
yeah,
It's all about respect.
because
Yeah,
you
it's all
guys
about
don't look
respect.
like you're crazy to me. I don't know, but
Well, Yeah, like they say, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Spend more
Yeah.
time with us.
We,
You'll see.
we wouldn't be filmmakers if we weren't crazy, Brian.
Yes,
Well,
but
that's true. You have to be a little bit, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
You
no, we
gotta be,
are.
you're like, you gotta be right out there, right?
We straddle, Jill and I straddle that line between, crazy and not crazy, like somewhere in the middle. That's creatives for you. But I want to say something that I feel like, there was definitely division when we first started going to Beachfoot between the Apers and the Woo.
mhm,
And we're seeing that radically change. And I can say here, on the show, I'm not going to name names, but we've spoken to pretty much in person, pretty much everybody who is somebody in the Bigfoot world. And we've talked to them about the paranormal. And there's a lot of folks out there, there's a lot of big names out there that just aren't ready to admit that they know that the paranormal is real. And we're starting to see some cracks in that from some pretty notorious apers, I guess you could say. But Jill and I have had some very lively discussions with some prominent folks. And the truth of the matter is, and I think sometimes we forget this in this community, this Bigfoot community, is that you have to have an open mind already to be a believer in Bigfoot. And so,
exactly.
some of these folks have experienced the paranormal, and their position is understandable. Their position is they want it to be recognized by modern science. They want science to take a serious look at it. They want to be treated like scientists. And I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's all important. I think these individuals are working, and we all know who I'm talking about. These individuals are working very hard for their credibility. They've put a lot of time, effort, and money, blood, sweat, and tears, sweat equity, say whatever you want. But eventually they're not going to be able to deny it anymore. And that's part of the reason why I've been pushing Barb Shoop's footage so hard, is because I believe it's in some ways the Patterson Gimlin of the paranormal, if you will. It's why I specifically sought out Joel Hynek, the Academy Award winner of The Predator Effect,
Mhm.
and the son of Dr. J. Allen Hynek, to get his opinion. And he could have said, "Buzz off, kid." I
Yeah.
want nothing to do with this. But he was gracious, and he invited us into his home, and he reviewed the footage, and I respected everything he had to say. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he has no explanation for what's on camera. And we're talking about the top of the pops here, the best of the best,
Mhm.
Oscar winner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're trying to show that you cannot, and there's some names out there that are saying, well, it's obviously a camera glitch or a digital glitch. That's
No.
phony baloney, buddy. There are so many. I could give you 10 reasons why it's not.
Mhm.
But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, again, I think science, mainstream science, public science, whatever you want to call it, is rapidly catching up with what we're talking about.
Yeah. And plus these guys always ignore, and I'm not saying these guys are condescending, they always ignore, like you talked about, and we know, like the 3 or 4 people that we've talked to who have seen that phenomenon. And you know, not
I'm
just making, they're not just making it up.
yeah, I'm always drawn back to the one fellow who, at the time she first released that, said, "Well, you can achieve that effect with a blah 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 lens over the such and such filter." And
Yeah.
I said, "Mister, you got to remember, she filmed that with an iPod on a stick."
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
One of the major clues that it's real is that there's a branch that's right in front of the effect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And and it's like, and Joel Hynek said, well, yeah, you could do this, you could fake it. And I understand that.
Mhm.
You definitely could. I mean, you look at a modern movie and you see these special effects. But the thing about it is that there comes a level of expertise that is extremely difficult and detail oriented
Yeah.
in order to do something like that. And ultimately, Joel's conclusion was, the chain of custody pretty much proves that it's real, because it would be very difficult to get it back on the camera. It's
Mhm.
one thing if Barb's out by herself, and then made all these claims, but she has numerous eyewitnesses who may not have seen it, but they saw the after effects immediately thereafter on the screen in
Mhm.
her father's RV.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you can't, I don't care how much money you've got or how big of a Hollywood producer you are, you can't do that.
When this guy was initially asked, though, Tom told me I learned the particulars of it. He was saying, "Oh yeah, I could do that." And then when he looked
Mhm.
into it, no, I can't do that. That's
Yeah.
not possible, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that transition was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. He
And
kind of have a
Brett,
shocked look on his face.
this guy is the primo of the crop of filmmakers or whatever. But I mean, you're a pretty reputable filmmaker yourself. You must have looked at that and had a pretty good idea even before you went to this other fellow that it was
Oh,
authentic.
100%, 100%. And I'm getting chills thinking about it right now because I had the footage. When I first saw the footage, the very first time I saw the footage, I thought, it's either this, that, the other thing. Because I've been
Mhm.
doing this, like I said, since I was a little kid. I've seen every variation of, going from, 8 millimeter, 16 millimeters, 35
Mhm.
millimeter, Betacam, VHS, Super VHS, High 8, Digital 8, MPEG, JPEG,
Wow.
HD, 4K, 8K, you name it. I've seen every single flavor of video that has ever existed, period.
Mhm.
And I know how it works. I know how it operates. This was something I had never seen before in my entire life. And so I thought, I need to debunk this. I need to debunk
Mhm.
this. And if I can't, I'm going to put it out there. And I sat there for 3 to 4 hours, enhancing it, doing anything and everything I could to try and figure out how this happened. And the only conclusion I could come to was that it was real,
Mhm.
period. And I stand by that.
Yeah.
And I don't see how it would be possible to do that short of just in a lab, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, even on a set, I don't see how you could achieve that effect. Uh, it just does. But then I'm not a filmmaker either. I'm a writer. But
And yeah, and once again, like you guys said, when you talk to people and interview people, you can tell who's telling the truth and who's not. And I
Yeah.
mean, people like Bob Gimlin and Barb Shoup, you talk to them for a couple sentences, and they're just down to earth, incredible people, and there's not a word of a lie coming out of their mouth. So I mean that
No,
that
not at
part's
all.
compelling too, right?
That's a
no,
huge, huge component.
yeah, Barb doesn't have a negative bone in her body.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Not at
Yeah.
all.
So why do you guys share some of your favorite stories that people have told you, uh, through your Sasquatch or Bigfoot journey here? Some of the favorite things that you've had shared or experiences that they had, if you feel comfortable doing that.
You know, I say this all the time, but each person that we've sat down to interview, they could be their own documentary series, going through their experiences and how it changed them and the things they've encountered. So
Mhm.
it's hard just to
Big
pinpoint.
out on. Yeah.
They're all my favorites.
Hmm.
They really are.
Okay, but maybe some of the interesting things that you discovered from their stories, or interesting things that talk about their abilities and stuff. Maybe let's go in that vein. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
I know they're all valid and everybody, like I say, nobody's experiences is any better than anybody else's. It's just their experiences and where you are, you know.
I think for me personally, it was the combination of stories that Tobe Johnson and Daryl Adams
Hmm.
brought to us with their experiences at the Al Moon Lab, the research they were doing, the things that were happening around Daryl's house.
Right.
And because it wasn't just Sasquatch activity, there was also UFO activity, there was also haunting, poltergeist type activity going on, and just high strangeness across the board.
Hmm.
So there was a little something for everyone, but it seemed to all kind of focus and circulate around the the encounters and the activity, Sasquatch activity that was going on in that area. And also how that kind of opened the door to looking at it from Dr. Simeon Hines' perspective about how all of this is connected and why.
That's a name that's very interesting too.
What is Simeon? This sounds like a Sasquatch teaching. What is Simeon Hines' perspective? Can you give us a little Cole's notes, or is it Cole's notes? Is that what you say in the States? An abbreviated
Cliff
version?
notes.
Cliff's
But maybe in
notes.
Canada it's Cole's notes.
Mhm.
I think it is Cole's notes.
Brett, do you
So
want to
what?
do you want to do the Reader's Digest version of how
What?
coherent matter and dark matter are being utilized by
Right.
Just
evolved beings?
you were saying we're all connected, right? Is what he
Yeah,
says. So what's his theory? What's basically, like, really quickly, his idea on that?
Brett, do you want to take it or should I?
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of comes back to, we also have Travis Taylor talking about this too in A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, that the universe is a universal consciousness, and there's a lot that we don't understand about dark matter, about relic neutrinos, about just basically about quantum mechanics. And I'm not going to lie, the science is complicated. The science is
Yeah.
complicated for quantum physicists. The science was complicated for Einstein. Um, and I also want to kind of give a shout out to Henry Franzoni, the late great Henry Franzoni, who spoke of all of these exact same things. And then Simeon's coming out and saying, here is the science behind this. Instead of just saying this, that, and the other thing,
Mhm.
let's look at the mechanics of it. The mechanics, again, it's a form of energy that works through us. That Simeon
Mhm.
basically believes that there are potential biological life forms that have figured out how to utilize this energy.
Yeah.
And we've always maintained that Sasquatch is a flesh and blood creature, but flesh and blood creature with an exemplary skill set,
Mhm.
superhero type skill set. And I feel like through our interviews around the United States and Canada and Alaska, that there are some Sasquatch that have these abilities and other Sasquatch that don't.
That's right. And most
Similar
people
to,
don't realize that, but it's
yeah,
very much true.
yeah. I mean, it's like I use the example of, if aliens were to observe only one human in history, and that human was Babe Ruth or Michael Jordan, they would all
Mhm.
think that we were,
Super
capable of
athletes,
these
yeah. Mhm.
extraordinary feats. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
And
would
it's,
think it would range from, like, look at the monks in
mhm,
Tibet. Some of them can levitate and whatever, and they can what the Sasquatch, some of them have the ability to see your whole life from past, present, future, and everything contained in it. And then
yeah,
we have people who are like, you wouldn't even connect them with those people. So I think the Sasquatch, I don't know if it's that radical a gap or whatever, but the Sasquatch that I'm dealing with and Tom's dealing with, some of these people are dealing with, are like the monks. They're the high evolved uh ancient ones, I
yeah,
suppose you say. So there is a and there's some of them that don't want anything to do with us, obviously, right?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's funny. We're sitting like 3.5 miles from the world campus of Nike Sportswear.
Mhm.
And I've done a lot of work with them before, and I've done a lot of work with a lot of famous athletes. And Nike's slogan is, if you have a body, you're an athlete.
Mhm.
There's no discrimination, there's no judgment. We all have, and this goes for able-bodied people and non-able-bodied people. If you have a body, you're an athlete. And it's the same type of thing this is the message that we're trying to get across here, is that human beings have these abilities as well. But we've been shut down, we've been shut
Yeah.
off, we've been told we can't more than we've been told we can. And just like you said, Brian, these monks, other individuals have figured out how to utilize these skills, and a lot of it has to do with just figuring out how to utilize this energy, how to tap into this universal consciousness that
Mhm.
Sasquatch is able to do because of how they live, um, so on and so forth. These are all the things that we get into, that Simeon gets into
Yeah.
in his two-part interview on our YouTube channel and in our documentary.
I just wanted to see if it's similar to the Sasquatch shape, because my teachings, well, just one aspect of it is that we are a collective, part of a collective universe. I had this downloaded this vision one time when I was driving, and I saw the universe as a spider's web.
Hmm.
And every person on that, in that, every person was a little single strand on that spider's web. Every vibration on your strand or every thought and action that you have goes out to the entire universe. So we affect the collective with our thoughts and actions, and that's what this guy's talking about. And
Yeah.
when people say we're not powerful and what can I do, that's a bunch of crap. We're very powerful. If we put the heartfelt thoughts and actions in there, we are changing things. We are
Yeah.
affecting the collective. So
Mhm.
that's where we're going, and that's what the Sasquatch, big part of their teachings, and that's what people like you are doing with these documentaries, and what we're doing. And I like the way it's going. I think it's promising.
Thank you. Thank you. We're doing the best we can. And I feel like they understand what humans can handle and when they can handle it. And it's almost like that we're following a trail of breadcrumbs, being left out by the Sasquatch.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've definitely, one thing we've really learned to trust the synchronicities and not try to push something that isn't ready to happen. There have
Right,
been some interviews and some like storylines that like on paper it looks really good. And we thought this is where we need to go, but it wasn't in the cards and we get redirected elsewhere.
right, right.
And in some of those scenarios, it was just a timing issue that we didn't have the information we needed to get the most out of those other
Absolutely.
meetings. And we've just learned to really go with the flow, which is hard
Mhm.
coming from a world of call sheets and production schedules and
Deadlines and yeah.
yeah, I mean, my
Mhm.
goodness, this has been an exercise in this whole experience in the Bigfoot documentary filmmaking has really been an exercise in sort of letting go and just
Mhm.
really trusting the universe.
Mhm.
Yep.
I'd like to tell a little story here to emphasize what Brett said about some not having these powers. Because I have no trouble at all speaking with my teacher. I had no trouble at all speaking with Brian's clan. But in 1978, I got myself in a situation where I was with uh, three Sasquatch family members. It was probably the father, the mother, and a child. And we spent literally hours trying to communicate and couldn't do it.
Mm.
We were face to face and could not communicate, either telepathically or verbally or anything. Yeah, we could make noises, but I couldn't understand his noises. He couldn't understand my noises.
Hmm.
And but others I have no problem with. So yes, I do very much believe that some of them have the power, some of them don't.
And
And
it's funny, Tom, because little Bud, at however young he was when you first met him,
that's right.
he already had that ability. So
Yeah.
is it something that's taught or is it inherent within certain
Mhm.
clans, do you think?
He told me one time, I go now, you go too.
When
Did
we
you
Yeah.
get my
said
question?
No, I
You,
didn't.
you,
I'm
you,
sorry.
I say, so little Bud had that ability very early.
Yeah.
Do you think it's inherent in certain clans or is it a taught ability?
I think it's inherent. I think it's a hierarchy type thing, and it's passed down from generation to generation. Uh,
Yeah, I would
yeah,
think so too.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
I just, anytime I have the opportunity to be with them, I revel in that. Uh, and that's the neat thing about Barb's camps. I can only go up for daytime now. I can't stay over. But fortunately, it's only 20 minutes from where I live, so that's not a big not a big deal,
Yeah.
And it's easy to get a ride that far. But
Yeah.
I've been sitting there at the fire and had everybody else have to do something else for a minute, and I'm sitting alone which really bothers me not at all, and have a Sasquatch walk right by in front of me. Where they walk this way, he'd walk back this way. And so it's just an ongoing thing. It never stops. It never stops. And if you need some names, you were talking about First Nations people to interview. I do have some people that I've worked with and that I know that would be very helpful to you too. So
Fabulous.
get a hold of me later. Of course, you know Arla, and Arla would be a great source as well.
Of course. Yeah.
My sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, next question.
Well, I did have one, but now I forgot what it was because I had a really good one too. That's
Uh,
why I try to write
That's
them
'cause
down.
you
I was
get-
going to say, what was I
that's
gonna
good, but
say?
you're getting old.
Yeah. Well, that's why you see me sometimes busy doing stuff. I try to write questions down because I'm trying not to interrupt as much as I normally do.
Yeah. Well, you're doing better today. I will say that.
I know what I was going to say. So
Uh,
thought placement, like I mentioned that earlier, is just like another form of telepathy. I get an awful lot of that. I think it's something that's misunderstood. I think a lot of people get it and they don't realize what it is. I mean, I'm getting energy like crazy right now. I had a detailed education on them with this, right? Like things like a simple one. I'll be walking along a path one day and I was looking for this spirit stuff. And I thought I passed it. I said, oh, I must. And as soon as I had that thought where I thought I passed it, no, I guess I won't find it today. Right on the ground, right in front of me was this amazing glyph, like, like no doubter, like, like a detail woven together or whatever. And as I looked down, I looked over to my right, and right to the right of it was that stump that I was looking for that I thought I passed. Stuff like that, or I'll be giving my daily affirmations for abundance and love and joy, whatever. And I'll look down in the Walmart parking lot and there's a glyph. And I know a little bit about glyphs. I'm not talking about a piece of wood. I'm talking about a detailed glyph right at my feet in answer to those affirmations. Like the universe is so connected. It's like thought, action, and they know what you're thinking before you do. So it's like that breadcrumb trail you were talking about. They can set that up, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff like is a big part of my journey, and I think it's important because if people start paying attention to that, there's so much you can learn from that. Because you'll have an answer like, I wonder, like of a big important, sorry, Brett, hold that thought, of a big important question. Like, can they have this ability to mind speak, or was that raven, was it the Sasquatch that in raven form that just went over my head and answered my question just at that precise moment? All those things are revealed in those kind of moments, right? There's a lot of teaching. As a matter of fact, every experience, if you pay attention, I think, is a teaching moment from them.
Yeah.
And that's
Nature
important.
is always
right?
a great teacher.
Who?
Nature.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. The best.
Yeah. And it's really simply about raising your awareness level. But in order to really do that effectively, you need to raise your vibration. And once you do that, it's like putting a pair of glasses on. You're able to see these things, like you said, Brian. Once your awareness goes up, it's like, holy cow. There's messages for you all over the place all the time. And you start realizing that time doesn't really even matter. You might get a message tomorrow that was intended, that's really going to have relevance in a couple of weeks or a year, or a few years. We've had that happen to us numerous times while making these films. There's been points where we're like, oh, we get it now. This makes sense, Now we see why that happened, or why we had to interview this person, or what have you. But that all starts with raising the vibration, raising the awareness.
When it's interesting when you mentioned time, that's another big thing, because when I had my Love Zap experience, one of the main things I realized is that there is no time. Linear time is an invention of man for points of reference. And that's one of the reasons why the Sasquatch and other teachers and whatever have that huge advantage, is because they don't fall into the restraints of linear time. They can set up, like you said, a breadcrumb trail of thoughts or clues for you to follow, because they know where you're going to be before you're there, and all throughout the journey. So it's
Yeah.
that's incredible. Do you have a thought, Thom, or I interrupted
I
somebody?
do. No, that's all right. Go ahead.
But yeah, so many things we're discovering about these amazing people, and the thing is that Thom said his teacher told him, and I found that out too, personal experience, is that you have no abilities, or we have no abilities that you did not once have. And I'm sure you guys have talked to people. I'm an example of that. Thom's an example of that. You talked to a lot of other people who have had enhanced abilities, psychic abilities, or healing abilities, or different gifts that are coming to light that we're remembering.
That's an important aspect too, is because he did. That's what my teacher told me. He says, we have no abilities that you did not at one time have, and that's true. When you look at society, there's aspects of telepathy there even yet, and yeah. But this isn't our show. This is your show. What are
No,
your
but
thoughts on this?
yeah, exactly. I want your thoughts on it, but I mean, we're having a discussion too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
these,
What's
Yeah.
interesting is, I was raised in a religious household, and I use that background, to inform a lot of what we've observed and what we've seen. And the thing that strikes me is that, I don't remember, I'm horrible with verses, scripture, so on and so forth. And quite frankly, I haven't been to church in I don't know how many years, but in the Bible, Jesus says, you can do all the things I can do.
right.
And this is what we're seeing from them. This is what we're seeing from the Sasquatch. They're doing
Yeah.
all the things that Jesus could do.
Mhm.
And I don't want to exclude any other religions here. I'm just using Christianity as an example,
Right.
and what Jesus said as an example, because there are many great individuals throughout history that had some of the same abilities that Jesus did, healing, you know, moving mountains with your mind, like it says in the
Mhm.
Bible, and
Influence.
influence. Yeah. And so, this goes back to, again, the control that society, or the upper echelons of society, has put on human beings. Because if we all had these abilities, we wouldn't be able to be controlled, would we?
No.
No.
You know,
No.
um, we could do anything we wanted to, and that would be liberating for us to be able to start having these abilities because we could get rid of all of this other consumerism and all of this other craziness, and we could live as the pure spiritual beings that we are.
I think that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed. That's
The
the
shift
whole
has begun.
idea.
The shift has
Yeah.
absolutely begun with
Can I
people
say,
waking
yeah,
up. Yeah.
absolutely. One of the big ones for that, I think one of the huge keys, one of the core lessons of the Sasquatch is no fear. If you can get to
Mhm.
no fear, if you get to the point where you know you're an eternal being and you have no fear, nobody can touch you, because what do you have to fear? Then that's the place where all those influences and all that societal stuff and all the conditioning and all that stuff, it just all fades away, because we can't be controlled by the lies and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
really great step for those who are not comfortable stepping out of that comfort zone and just kind of jumping in head first is even just to change your perspective and approach everything with a curiosity. Instead of saying that I don't like this or I don't understand that, this scares me, get curious about it.
That's
Start
right.
asking yourself questions like, I want to know more. What does this mean
Mhm.
to me? What other similar things can I relate this to? One of the biggest and best takeaways from all of our interviews for me personally was Daryl Wilson, who had he had his encounter, his sighting up in Alaska while visiting family and his grandchildren. He will always approach people and he'll let them know, I've seen a Bigfoot. Have you?
Mhm.
And a lot of people will open
That's the
up.
first thing he says. Hey, I've seen a
Oh,
Bigfoot of you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
actually, yes. You meet
Mhm.
Daryl and it'll be one of the first two questions. Maybe the first one might be, how are you? But he'll
Yeah.
ask people that as an icebreaker.
Sure.
And people will either open up or the people who are kind of standoffish, Daryl's next question is, what's the most unbelievable thing you've ever seen? Because then
Mhm.
that opens up a whole new conversation. I mean,
That's good.
how many people have you met who laugh at the whole idea of seeing a Sasquatch or Sasquatch existing? But you
Mhm.
ask them what else they've seen or experienced, and they talk about, well, the lights in the sky or the time I felt a presence. It really
Mhm.
opens the door, or even just things they've witnessed in nature, whether it's a sunset, a beautiful rainbow. There's so many things that points where we can all relate to one another.
That's right.
So it's just a matter of being curious, asking more questions, really asking yourself, why am I so scared of this?
Yeah.
Is it because it's challenging my beliefs and the way I was brought up to think? And I mean, wasn't it Rich Germeau in, I don't remember for his part one or part two of his interview, but he talks about after he had his sighting, his whole paradigm shifted because he was
Mhm.
brought up thinking this was all a fairy tale.
That, yeah, it
So
doesn't exist.
the minute he had his sighting, and he's like, "Oh, these are real," he had to start questioning a lot of other things
That's right.
that he had very solid opinions
Mhm.
about, and it totally redirected him on another path. And I think
Mhm.
Yeah.
so many people, whether they're people we've actually sat down to interview or people we've just met in passing, having these conversations, I
Yeah.
really think that's the secret.
And I bet you're Rich. Is it Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I bet he doesn't think that encounter was a coincidence.
Mm-mm. No.
They seldom are. They're seldom like an introduction, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're
Yeah.
often like an introduction. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it hits the reset button, and I think that they're definitely aware of those individuals out there who are ready, like a Rich Germeau type
Mhm.
individual, or Barb, or any number of people that we can talk about who are ready to receive those messages. Both of you gentlemen are in that position. Obviously, you were ready to receive those messages, and that the first day that it happened, when you had your first experience, is when they knew that you were ready to go. You
Mhm.
were open to it, and you've been messengers ever since.
Well,
Um,
yeah. It's not about me, but just quickly, I just want to say how it happened with me. I got it out of the blue. I'm getting a lot of energy this show. The Sasquatch are liking this conversation. But just no, seriously,
hey guys.
you can tell when they're listening anyway. But just right out of the blue, I'm walking my dogs in Pitt Meadows, British Columbia. I look up to the mountains and I got a telepathic voice in my head, go to the mountains. And from there, I met Randy Brisson. I met Thom. I met Arla. I met you people. Connections, connections, connections. I go places and people are thinking about Sasquatch and I just happen to go there because I'm needed. It's just connections, 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 connections. And that's what you guys are doing. That's what you guys are talking about. And that's what's happening with all of us, eh? And it's just so obvious. And the synchronicities are just astounding. And coincidences, well, right out the door with that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I've never been a strong uh supporter of coincidence in anything, especially as construed by Sasquatch. But we were talking about people and their stories. Uh this happens so often, why you have my booth either as a speaker or as a vendor at so many conferences. And people will come up and they'll be about as far away from me as they can get and look at the stuff and say, they're really real, huh? Yeah, they're really real. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm really sure. And before he's done, he's standing right next to my table, right in my face, telling me about an experience that he's had,
Yep.
you know, and
Yep.
they just don't have people to talk to about what's happened to them. And I think that's a very important transition for them.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, Jill mentioned it. I've always said, lose the fear. Now I'm going to have to change that. Convert the fear to what you said, to a joy of one type or another, either to curiosity or to I can't remember the word you used, was probably better than mine, certainly. But there's no reason to fear. And once you understand that, the whole world opens to you.
I also
Absolutely.
think I also think it is important to address though. We've had a lot of people share their encounters with us that were not positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a couple ways of looking at this. You can, there was a fear, of course, of seeing something that you've been taught
Mm-hmm.
isn't supposed to exist. But we've also come to the conclusion that Sasquatch, just like people, there's going to be different personalities, different types, uh, different messages, I guess you could say. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I, well, we've talked to so many people who have really amazing positive experiences.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot
There
of
are
stuff
some
that,
negative experiences, yes.
yeah, there are some very negative experiences as well.
And that'll happen, especially if you get around one of their youth.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I wanted to say two things on that. And I'm sure there are negative experiences. Some of them, like I said, don't want anything to do with it. But you can have two identical situations. Like you could have a Sasquatch standing in the woods looking at you, and I would say, "There's my friends," and I'd be overjoyed. It would be like, "Wow, this is amazing." Another person would say, "I just escaped with my life. It was going to kill me," and nothing changed between in the two scenarios. So it's how they address it or whatever. And or another thing, a little rock will come out be tossed on the forest path in front of you. Hey, my friends are here. Sure sign.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of their, hey, we're here, let's play. Other people will grab my gun and let's get the hell out of here. And, so it depends on how you interact with them. It depends on their respect, but it also depends on who they are too. I'm not going to say there's not ones that don't want anything to do with us at all. That's obviously the case. But sometimes it's how you interpret an experience, and sometimes it's how you interact and the
And
respect.
I know in my
Yep.
first book, Sasquatch Face to Face, where it's 32 face to face encounters by different people talking about how terrified they were, that they were afraid for their life, and all of us doing was standing there looking at them,
Yeah.
and there was really nothing to be afraid of there, but they were in a situation that was to them very fearful, and I can understand that. There's a reason for that. But yes, especially if you approach and there's a youngster there, they will want you away, and they'll act very gruff and bluff charge, whatever they have to do to get you away. So what do
I
you
can go ahead, Tom. I have an example of that that's different.
go ahead?
I was going to say, I'm friends with the Sasquatch. I'm like family to them. They've called me family or whatever. So I've got a close relationship with many people.
We all have family members like that too,
No, but a lot of people can say that, right? But the thing is with myself, I've been
Mhm.
in sensitive areas where they've zapped me,
Mhm.
myself and Randy Brisson, where I know where there's a nursery or something sensitive going on.
Mhm.
And you remember, and there's a ton of different experiences that you can have with zapping or downloads or whatever. But this particular one, do you remember that in the Wizard of Oz when they're walking in the poppy field towards the Emerald City? It felt like they were almost like They could hardly walk. It was almost like there was a wall or something in front of them. That was that experience. Now they weren't being negative towards it. They just said, we don't want you around today. Something going on here and kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, but
Mm.
yeah, there's definitely a little bit of both, and I guess throughout history there have been people who have come to an untimely demise at the hands of Sasquatch. But
Mhm.
it's also interesting to say that these people who say that they just escaped with their life from a creature that, well, they don't understand that a cloak can be right beside them, but a creature that is so huge and big, their perspective of it, and yet they always seem to come out and talk about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, if they were really monsters and wanted to take them out, they'd be gone.
Yeah. Humans are more dangerous than Sasquatch, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I've always said that the
Yeah.
Oh, for
most
sure.
dangerous thing in the woods wears shoes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are, there's no denying it. Human
Mhm.
beings are the most dangerous animal on Earth
Mhm.
by far. I think we're
Absolutely.
probably in first place and mosquitoes are in second place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Something like
right
that.
about that.
So
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate you guys. Sorry, Jill, that you said you would stay for 90 minutes. So we got about 20 minutes left.
Hmm.
Healing story. Have you had any healing stories with them? Thom and I've got some doozies, and other people have got doozies, but that's another ability through energy and the understanding of energy, because that's basically what it
Well,
is.
the biggest story, we've heard numerous healing stories, and a gentleman named Chris Kramer, who we interview, is on our YouTube channel. His healing story is profound.
Mhm.
And I would just encourage everybody to take a look at that. It's on our Flash of Beauty YouTube channel.
Mhm.
But the one that has always stuck with me is Daryl Wilson. And the reason why it stuck with me is because I don't know if it was Sasquatch directly. And I want to kind of give an example here. Basically, what happened with Daryl Wilson, and many people know his story, but Daryl Wilson was diagnosed with terminal melanoma, and he had already had a big portion of his scalp removed to try. They were trying to get it, and they didn't get all of it, and the doctors essentially gave him a death sentence, and those were Daryl's exact words. And so that's why he traveled up to Alaska, because he thought that this might
Mhm.
be the last time he got a chance to see his grandchildren,
Mhm.
his and his daughter. And so he has this sighting, this profound sighting that lasts over 10 minutes and brings him more joy than he can handle. I mean,
Mhm.
really, he talks about being so overwhelmed with emotion after that sighting. And Daryl is alive and well to this day.
Right.
This is going on 13, 14 years since
Wow.
this sighting and experience. And so again, I don't know if this was a direct healing from Sasquatch or if this was the positivity that was interjected suddenly into Daryl's life and gave him this life affirming, passionate purpose,
Mhm.
that where his body, his brain, everything just went, all right, we're healing you. You've got an immense purpose on this earth to tell this story, to bring this awareness to folks, and Daryl's major message is um, not judging, is
Right.
to be able
Yeah.
to let people
Mhm.
just talk and express themselves and feel free and get rid of the fear. So that, in my opinion, is really the greatest kind of healing that we can have, is the healing that
Yeah.
starts here. It starts
Yeah.
Mhm.
here.
And
Can I
just to
share a
just
quick?
to
Go
piggyback on
ahead,
what Brett
Jill.
had to say, with Daryl, especially up until that sighting, his life was consumed, with cancer treatment, with,
Mhm.
medical focus, end of life decisions. So he had a ton of that was his focus. And I think
Sure.
a lot of us know where your attention goes, energy flows.
That's right.
That
Yeah.
Yeah.
sighting redirected his focus. He wasn't
Mhm.
thinking about treatments. He wasn't thinking about hospice or end of life care.
Right.
He didn't have time for that. He wanted to hear other people's Bigfoot encounters so he could share his as well, and he wanted to hear like what Brett said, what other people had
Mhm.
experienced. And it really, I mean, if you want to say it was a healing, maybe not directly like hands, laying of hands, but a redirection of energy and focus. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can I just
And
quickly touch on that a little bit?
Yeah.
We were all sitting around in one of my campouts one day, and we witnessed a lady called Coastal Shark. She was actually didn't let us know, but she was just about ready to leave because she was in such pain, her back or something. And we watched Ari heal her right there. Like, and she was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe," and she described the energy coming up and everything, and she was fine. One more, and Tom's got a huge healing story, but that's a big one. And we talked about it a lot, but I'll tell you a quick one with Sue that was really interesting. And it's about melanoma too. That's skin cancer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she was worried about this spot on her nose. She thought it might be skin cancer, and she had like a little melanoma before, I guess, in another place, maybe the same place. And she was thinking about it at one of our campouts. Maybe I should go in and have it looked at. Well, that night, she heard some walking around the tent, the Sasquatch walking around the tent. Then she felt some energy coming in through the wall. She could feel some energy and like a vibration and a noise and whatever. And she was wondering, is this a healing or a download? She wasn't sure what was going on. And then she also heard them walking away. The next day she got up, and the melanoma on her nose was completely gone. There wasn't even a scar.
Wow.
There wasn't even a scar.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
And when we talk about them working with people and enhancing their abilities, I'm not going to get into that too, because I've talked to that ad nauseum. But they've been teaching me a little bit about healing too, and stuff or whatever. So they are opening us up to those gifts and those abilities that we all have, but we just have to wake up to, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I understand Jeff Rohn spoke about one of my events at the conference this weekend. And so yeah, I don't even have to talk about it.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that
No,
guy
that
in a
was a
long
great
time.
story. It was a great story, Tom. I
Uh,
mean, it was a fabulous story. It really was. Yeah.
it was a fabulous night. And Brian's wife Sue was part of that too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. The imitating your voices is funny. I've heard the same thing. I remember
yeah.
going to meet Randy and a friend, and I heard them up in the woods. I said, I'll be right up there. And it was the Sasquatch mimicking them.
Mhm.
There was nobody there at all. And
Yeah.
I'm going out to the parking lot 20 minutes later. Hey, we're just coming. Sorry we're late. Kind of thing. So,
So that's
You
a
know what?
reminder to watch what you say because someone's
Yeah.
Oh
always
yes, somebody's always listening, aren't they?
I'm gonna put a call to action out there for someone that's watching this show. And maybe it's you, Brian, or maybe it's you, Tom, or maybe it's you guys collectively. But you know what I would love to see is I would love to see a book that is just a collection of funny Sasquatch stories. Because laughter's the best medicine, right?
Mhm.
Because I just think that these guys and gals have
Just
the
funny
best
ones,
sense
huh?
of humors. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I,
Oh,
Like you
they
just said,
do
Tom.
have a sense of humor. It's out of
I
this world.
Yeah.
Uh,
with all due modesty, I think that my book has got it's got some humor in it, don't you think, Tom?
Does it? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of a quirky, you probably tell I'm kind of quirky and weird and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I think my humor comes through, and also their humor because they're
Mhm.
extremely funny. Yeah, extremely
Well, they
funny.
are. They are. And they're funny in a great way. It's just like I
Mhm.
love that. And that shows an immense amount of intelligence.
So I
Yes.
want to ask you, we got about 15 minutes or 12, 13 minutes left. So I wanted to ask you one thing, what your fourth book is going to be about, but also maybe we can end on that. But what I ask everybody this, and I'll ask you both individually or collectively. How has your life changed since your introduction to Sasquatch?
That's a loaded question.
I know.
Jill, take it away.
yeah. Yeah, I need time to put that one together. But right off the cuff, I can say how my life has changed. Um, is reintroduced an element of magic, so to speak, being able to suspend disbelief
Yeah.
and just accept there's a lot of things in this world that we may not be able to see with our eyes. It doesn't mean it's not happening around us. And I feel it's really a better connection to nature, although we're not in the woods as much as we'd like
Mhm.
because we're filming all the time.
Whoever is.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it's taught me to slow down, and not be so quick to make judgment.
Mhm.
Um, in some ways, it's taught in my life, I've become more patient. Not a lot, but a little bit more patient.
No comment.
And hey, I have my moments. And
I
I feel a
detected
better
a little
connection.
disbelief or a little.
Mhm.
No, but I definitely feel more connected, and it's really opened my eyes into, I guess, just a enjoy the sense of wonder, enjoy
Okay.
that sense of awe. I feel
Yes,
like
yes.
so many things I have taken for granted before, like the synchronicities. I
Hmm.
say thank you when they happen.
Hmm.
I have when I see a bird, chirping, if I'm on a walk, I'll stop and I'll observe it. I'll admire it
Hmm.
instead of just blowing by.
Right.
And I'm I'm paying attention to the little things.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
totally get that. Before you kick in there, Brad, I just wanted to say when you said magic, I've talked about that at all. It just seems like once you get that connection, it seems like the whole world is just it's magical and it's just it's completely different. And
Yeah.
you were talking about judgment, and I just wanted to quickly say this, and that's one of the Sasquatch core lessons that judgment. As soon as we judge, we go off of that high vibration that we're trying to stay on, that heart high vibration. Judgment takes us down to negativity. And that is so important that we just have to. One of the messages I got when I was on that love app, it just is, you know, there's dark, there's light, there's balance. But when we judge, we don't have to take ourselves. We can observe and we can be aware. But when we take ourselves to that judgment place, that's where we don't want to be, right?
Brian, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit there because
Well, I don't care, but I don't
we have to
need to
make
disagree.
judgments.
But
We
what's
have to
that?
make we have to make judgments every day.
Just
It's part of our life. You know, how far do we
I'm
go
talking
with this
about
person?
negative judgments, though. I'm talking about I don't like the way
Uh,
you look. I don't like this. I don't like
well, yeah,
that.
that's that
Yeah,
that
I mean, yes,
you're
there
talking about
are.
a specific kind. I'm
Yeah, but
talking
Tom,
about
that
judge.
Judgment and discernment can be
Yeah,
very
I
yeah.
mean,
different
we have
things.
discernment and awareness and take ourselves out of situations we don't want to be in. But we're constantly. I understand what you're saying, Tom, but this is very important to me.
Hmm.
Judgment is constantly taking us to a negative place. It's
Neg
important.
ne Negative judgment is taking us to a
Negative
negative place.
judgment is yes.
Okay.
Now we can
Yes.
agree.
Yeah.
Negative judgment is
Yeah.
automatically lowering our vibration and taking us
Yeah.
to it.
Okay. I can
And I
accept
had an
that.
example of that when they gave me a lesson. One time I'm driving down the road, I'm on my high vibration or whatever, like heart, everything's perfect. I started thinking about somebody that I perceived as doing me wrong. And my vibration just plummeted like an airplane coming down. And I said, okay, I get it, guys. Stop
Mhm.
that stinking thinking. And I stopped it and I went back up again. So that was a practical lesson on that. So, Tom, I
Mhm.
don't disagree with you. That kind of, yeah, negative judgment.
Mhm. Okay, we've only got a few minutes left.
Well, but
Where do we
Brett
go
was going
from
to
here,
tell about
guys?
how he was changed.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Real quick, and I just kind of wanted to piggyback on what Jill had to say. When you learn these lessons to live a better life, at least the life that we have here on Earth, everything changes.
Mhm.
Every single thing changes. And like you said, Brian, eliminating these negative judgments, eliminating these negative thoughts just makes everything better. It's like
Mhm.
seasoning the food of life, for a horrible analogy and lack of better words, but it really is, it really is. I mean, I think about this all the time about how, when we were children, we really kind of took for granted what we had. And what we had back then was a never-ending, insatiable sense of wonder. And that's what we're all trying to get back to. We didn't judge, we wondered. We saw something
That's
different.
right.
We wondered why it was and how it was.
Right.
Beautiful.
You
Yeah.
know, it didn't instill fear in us. It instilled wonderment. And this is what we're doing. As Jill and I, when we're out and we're interviewing people, or we're in the woods, or when you guys are in the woods, we're wondering, you know. And so that's, for me, that's been the most important life lesson. And it's difficult as responsible adults to keep this, you know, with day-to-day stresses and activities, to keep this in the forefront of our mind. But we have to keep practicing. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons. And just, you know, one of the big messages with A Flash of Beauty is we say this to people all the time: just get out in the woods. You don't even need to go out looking for Sasquatch. Just get out there.
Just get out there.
If you get out there with a sense of love for everything, for every living creature, for every living thing, being, I don't care if it's a tree or if it's a shrub or if it's a, you know, a horsefly, although they're not at the top of my favorites, but it doesn't matter. You know, everybody's doing their own thing. Love it all. And once you do, you're going to raise that vibration. And that's when you're going to start experiencing things.
I found out one thing: you cannot negotiate with horseflies. I don't like killing anything, but I've had these big horseflies chase me around, and I say, I'm going to kill you if you don't stop. And they usually end up dead, but after I look like a fool with my tall winging around. You know, I was just going to say, Brett, to piggybacking off of you now, as a filmmaker, that's what the real good filmmakers want to do anyway, don't they? They want to restore that sense of wonder and magic.
That's right. That's right. That's why Steven Spielberg is a hero of mine, because, you know, I talk about Close Encounters of the Third Kind all the time, and that movie embodies it. You know,
that's one of those movies I have to watch regularly.
Yes.
I go back and
as filmmakers, we're winding up, I promise you. I usually, in the old days, I used to try to trick people, and they say they'd stay for an hour and a half, and then 2.5 hours later, I'd say, are you sure? I'd start feeling sorry for them. But no, we're going to wrap it up. But as filmmakers, what are your favorite, some of your favorite films, you guys?
Jill?
My standbys used to be, well, they still are, but The Sound of Music and also The Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah.
However, while I still love those, and those, it's like comfort food. The movie that has really stuck with me, that I need to go back and watch again, is Tree of Life.
Yeah.
Tree of Life.
Tree of Life.
I don't know that one.
Oh, you should watch that one, Thom.
I will look that up.
And you know what? And it has so much more meaning since starting this journey. Yeah. I encourage everyone to watch it.
Yeah.
On that Sound of Music, I remember as a child going to the theater and watching it in the panorama vision or whatever it was. That was very cool. How about you, Brett? I got a couple of movies I'd like to say too, but quickly.
Yeah, you know, I mean, for me, like the aforementioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind is certainly at the top of the list. I think that for me, the perfect movie, and probably my favorite movie of all time, is Back to the Future, because it has the perfect amount of drama, the perfect amount of comedy, the perfect amount of suspense. It's got everything you could ever want in a movie. You know what I mean? It doesn't profoundly affect me like a movie like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or like Jill mentioned, Tree of Life. And there's another movie too that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and that movie's called Soul. And it was a Disney film that came out during the pandemic, and it didn't get the attention that it deserved. But I encourage everybody to watch that film because it is profound. And
I'm going to watch that.
Excellent movie. It's a Pixar film.
Is it on Disney Plus?
Yes, it's on Disney Plus. I cannot recommend it enough.
Soul.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, on top of that, I mean, if I could take you into the next room, you would see way too many movies.
I could name a whole bunch, but I kind of like gritty human dramas and whatever, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of a sensitive, heartfelt kind of person. So like one of my favorite movies was Seabiscuit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That last I'm gonna cry because I'm a big baby. That last scene where Seabiscuit's way behind and the guy that he says, "Have a nice ride, Johnny," or whatever. Remember that? And then
Yeah.
he just wins. That is just the most emotional scene. Have a nice ride. Remember that line? Have a nice ride, Johnny. And then Seabiscuit wins his.
I
What a story!
actually I
What a
actually
story!
saw Seabiscuit in the theater with the screenwriter. The screenwriter's from
Oh,
Portland, Mike Rich.
what
Jill's
a
met with
story!
him before. Yeah, here in
Well,
town.
I can show you where Seabiscuit's buried. Does that help?
No kidding.
Yeah, in Northern California.
Huh.
That's a
Between
whole other show.
Yeah.
yeah, between Ukiah and Willits, California. The
Oh, no kidding.
I
ranch
think
there.
another one is was that one with De Niro and that Vietnam War one? Oh,
The Deer Hunter?
Deer Hunter. What a
Mhm.
movie! What a movie
Yeah.
that was. Some
My
movies like
my
that, yeah.
mine are a little different. High Noon.
Good
Uh,
one. Good
yeah,
one.
it's one of them. One's a foreign film, believe it or not, came from Australia, called Man from Snowy River.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Yeah.
And
Classic.
then of course Close Encounters and the first Star Wars when it first
Yes.
came out.
Yeah.
That was fantastic to see all the special effects that were in that movie.
Yeah.
Was fantastic.
Brilliant film.
Another one I really liked, and I bet you admire the director. I just got a feeling you do. Is The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God,
Tremendous
what a
movie.
movie!
Darren Aronofsky. Have you seen his film, The Fountain?
Oh,
Oh,
Another very
Mm.
profound film. Very profound film.
Mm.
especially
There's
if you've
another-
been on this journey. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another
I'm
movie
gonna write
that-
these down. Soul and The Fountain.
Soul, The Fountain, and then I'm going to bring up another movie, and this is an interesting one, real quick. We'll kind of close with this.
Sure.
But there's a movie that just I can't get out of my head, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I could ever watch it again. But it's called A Ghost Story,
Okay.
and it is one of the most profound movies. You know, it's definitely at the top of my list, but it is one of the most profound movies I have ever seen in my entire life on so many different levels. And the
Wow.
premise is very simple. It's about a husband and wife, and the husband is killed and becomes a ghost. But the overall story is about time and how time changes and time shifts.
Yes.
And yeah, it's the reason why I don't know if I could ever really watch it again is because it's a very emotionally
Right.
taxing
I have
film.
movies like that.
It's
Yeah.
gut-wrenching at the very end. The final
Mhm.
the final moments, it just right
But
in the
it
heart.
is it is a powerful, powerful film. And
That's
I was
that's
just
what
thinking about it yesterday. It's one of those things that just kind of pops back into my head occasionally and reminds
Awesome.
me
I got
about
all
how,
three of them written down. Now, how about
Yeah.
a couple of yours that are available that I can watch?
Light of Mine is on YouTube at the moment. We're trying to
Light
get
of
it
Mind?
back out. Light of Mine. Yeah.
Light of Mine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Light of Mine. Mint. It's kind of like
No,
the
I got
old-
that. I thought you said mind, but okay, mine. Yeah.
Oh,
And anything
yeah.
else?
Pretty Broken. You should check out Pretty Broken as well.
That's my
Pretty
life
Broken
story.
is on.
I think
That's
that's on
easier to
Amazon
find.
still.
Is
Yeah.
that my story? You didn't give me. You didn't ask me permission for that.
Yeah. My version is called Pretty Broke.
Pretty broke.
Yeah. I'm pretty broke.
The tales of documentary filmmakers.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to try to stay a man of my word so that we all leave respecting each other, and because it's 11:02, and really nice I think we got to know you guys a little better than the first time we interviewed you. A little more
Yeah.
intimate.
Yeah, that was a while
really
back
enjoyable.
too. So thank you,
Yeah.
Brian. Appreciate
Yeah.
you
And
having us on.
I want to say this, you guys, I marvel at what you do. Keep it up. And if there's
you.
ever anything I can do to help you, just have to ask.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We will, Tom.
If
We
it's
will.
in my power, it's yours. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I would
Really
also
appreciate
add that with the, I'm sorry, Tom, were you done?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
And I would also like to add with the energy I was feeling throughout the whole show from Maureen and the clan and whatever, they're very much on board, obviously, with what you're doing, the important work that you're doing. Oh, and quickly, the fourth one. What's that about? And then we'll end. The fourth documentary.
Oh, Voices in the Wilderness. That's all about the Sierra Sounds.
Yeah.
Ah,
We're yeah. I don't even know
another
what
good
else
one.
to say about that other than it's going to completely change the story
Okay.
Awesome.
of the Sierra Sound. So I'm just
All
going to
right.
leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay, well,
It's
you
really
guys keep
exciting.
up. Yeah, you guys keep up the good work.
That's
You know,
right.
I consider you to
Absolutely.
be friends, and it's nice to see you again, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. And thanks so much for gracing our show with your presence, and
That's
we
right.
appreciate it.
You're welcome, you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
You too,
And
Tim.
thanks
Bye.
everybody
Take
for
care.
watching too. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
Bye.
Oh, what wonderful people.
That was really nice, yeah.
Yeah. What wonderful people.
Anyway, we're still recording, so
Yeah.
don't say anything. No, I'm just joking.
I know. I just, that's all right. That's my true feelings.
No, I
They
know.
they were
Obviously,
here.
yeah.
They were here a few weeks ago, and I loved it. And today I just love it more.
Yeah.
What they did for Barb with that, with their predator
Yeah.
film was out of this world. It's just unbelievable. What great
Yeah.
people. So glad to have them in our world.
Absolutely. We're glad to have them, Barb Shoop, and a lot of
Mhm.
other people in our world. So
I'm so blessed with the friends I have.
yeah.
Even this little white-haired guy that lives up north of Idaho.
Well, we got a pretty good little show going. This is our 30th show, you know.
Yeah, it is. It is. Who do we
Number
have
30.
next week?
I think we have that lady, that young lady.
Is it Sam Stern? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
thought I had somebody after that, but I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
anyway, we'll they keep rolling in. We have no problem
Okay.
finding people.
Yeah.
All right, my friend, I gotta go. I haven't eaten anything all day, and I got some
Well,
stuff to do.
okay. And so
I just
give your
wanted to
wife
tell
a-
you, we
yeah.
took Charlie up to that woods area,
Uh,
and I found some new different stuff. I mean, I found different stuff. It looked like it was older, but
um,
that whole area looks like it's Sasquatchy.
well, give your wife a great big hug for me. I love her very much, and say hi to Chuck for me. And
You want to
we
say
will
hi? You want to see Chuck?
Yeah, I want to see Chuck.
Getting big. Here we go.
Well, hello, Charles. Hey, Charlie, what you doing, bud? What you doing there, guy? Oh, he cleaned Dad's face, huh? All right. Then cuddle in. He's quite the guy.
I don't know. Some people hate those dog kisses. I love them.
I don't like him on my face. I don't like
We do,
anything
don't
on
we,
him.
Charlie? Whoa, he's biting my necklace. Okay. Say goodbye.
All right. We shall see you later, and behave yourself,
Yeah.
since I'm
Bye-bye.
not there to watch you.
So
Be
Yeah.
careful.
hush, little baby.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Don't you cry. You know your daddy about to die.